Time now for sports on 104.7 The Cave. Here's Ned Reynolds.
Mike, the intern, Ned Reynolds, in the studio on a wet Tuesday morning. So yesterday during the press conference, Coach Andy Reid basically talked about having to let some players go. The first cut for some of the players for the Chiefs were made yesterday. Kind of give the listener a rundown on how that works usually.
The protocol in the NFL for all teams is they have to be at 85 players today at 3 o'clock. That's 3 o'clock Central Time. Of course, that varies across the country, 4 Eastern, of course. Chiefs have 2 more players to go. They sliced some players yesterday, but they also added one, Danny Shelton. So they still have 2 players to go to get to the 85 number. Then, this time next week, they have to be at 80. The following week, they have to be down to about 75, somewhere in that vicinity. And then the following Thursday, which would be August the 30th, then they have to have the roster at 53. So the massive cut comes after the final exhibition game. It's a tough way to go. It's a tough profession to follow, but after all, that's part of the business. That's what does happen.
And, these guys will pop up somewhere else. They might be in need across the league for them, or they might go to a developmental league. They might go to Canada. They might play in the XFL still a thing?
They probably not now. I can't say definitely not now in Canada because they're 3/4 of the way through their season up there now. And they're playing pretty well. That's Canadian Football League's been drawing some large crowds. In terms of developmental, taxi squads, yes. That would be for some of the proven players and maybe some of the younger ones. Chiefs yesterday sliced Lonnie Johnson, who they got from the Houston Texans. He was supposed to be depth at defensive back, wasn't getting the job done. He's probably out for any other team. But that's a guess. Anything can happen. These guys keep themselves in shape, and they are ready to go at any beck and call.
It's not only the American golfers the Live Tour is after. Could be after some of the guys overseas, like the British Open champion is one of them. You think he's going to the Live Tour?
Yeah, I'm afraid he is. Yeah, this is Cameron Smith, who you're talking about, and he did win the British Open this year. He's actually an Aussie, but he's been playing on the PGA Tour and winning. Well, he ran into a bit of a tough time at the last tournament, the one in St. Jude. He was given a 2-stroke penalty when he was closing in on the lead. Well, that really is immaterial. Handled it like a gentleman, took the penalty. But after the tournament was over, he said, I'm not playing next week in the BMW Classic, which is starting Thursday in 48 hours. Going to withdraw from that, and I think the withdrawal is because he's going to go to the Live Tour. He had hinted at such. Whether or not this is a good move, I don't know. The PGA is countering by not only suspending the players, they're sending in the howitzers now, the big battleship guns that are going to... Tiger Woods is going to talk to the player.
Yeah, well, God, can you imagine you get a knock at the door from that guy? He'd probably just be like, all right, give me some of your money, and then we'll talk. All right, last but not least, college football rankings are out, and we are getting close to the start of the season, my man.
The Associated Press rankings, and that's considered the Rosetta Stone, so to speak, of all the college football rankings, and it isn't really changed from any of the others. Alabama is number 1, Ohio State 2, Georgia, Clemson, and Notre Dame. They all make up the top 5. Then you go to the second grouping of 5, and it's also an elite team. Now, Mike, that will change after the first week, and the reason I'm really positive that it'll change is because 2 of those teams are playing each other. Ohio State is playing Notre Dame in the opener in Columbus, Ohio. I think there'll be a few people there to see that.
Man, I'd like to be there, to be honest with you, and I don't care about either team, to be honest with you.
Ohio Stadium, which is one of the great venues in all of sports, seats about 106,000. That's the big horseshoe in Columbus. They'll have that and more when you consider the allotment to Notre Dame. Notre Dame travels great. They're the universal, or were anyway, the universal Roman Catholic team. So this will be a great matchup, Ohio State, Notre Dame. Ohio State will go in as the favorite team, but don't sell the Irish short. They're pretty good.
College basketball coach passed away yesterday, left a mark on the game. What do you remember about him?
He was one of the most brilliant minds in college basketball, very much an older version of the late Charlie Spoonhour. This is Pete Carrill from Princeton, who we're talking about. Carrill he died yesterday at 92. Brilliant basketball mind, and a guy who had a specific strategy in basketball that won, but he knew he had to do it with specific athletes. Took over at Princeton in 1967 when Butch Van Bredekoff stepped down after the Bill Bradley era at Princeton. Now, keep in mind, gang, those of you that are not familiar with Princeton University, it is one of the most elite academic universities in the world, and not just in this country. It's very small, has maybe 6,500, 7,000 students in East Central New Jersey. And athletically, you don't get some of the big athletes who are going to the Arkansas and the UCLAs. You don't get them. And Kirill knew this when he took over. He said, but I am getting smart kids, and they'll listen to the style of basketball. And that style, Mike, was absolutely sensational. He won 13 Ivy League titles. They were in the NCAA tournament 17 times. And they did it with a specific style of basketball, backpicking and screening. And invariably, when you played Princeton, you looked around, all of a sudden there's somebody getting a layup underneath because the defender's been picked right out of the way without even knowing it. It was brilliant. The one that I remember most of all was early March of 1989, NCAA National Tournament first round. Georgetown, number 1 team in America, playing Princeton, number 16 team in the seedings. 16 had never beaten number 1. Games in Providence, Rhode Island. I'll not forget it. Here is, I turned it, it's a blowout. Heck, here's Georgetown. Probably Alonzo Mourning is one of the great stars.
Oh, yeah.
Dikembe Mutombo.
I remember that team.
You know who Dikembe Mutombo
Oh,
is?
yeah, dude. I remember that Georgetown team. That was right when I was super into basketball. And that was like as far as college team goes, that was the college team that you really wanted to root for.
John Thompson was their good. Dikembe Mutombo, folks, is the guy in the commercials who runs around, no, and swats away. The guy was a beast. Anyway, 1989, playing up in Providence, Rhode Island. I turned it on midway through. Georgetown's a 28-point favorite. They're losing at halftime, 29-21. That's how Princeton made you play. Low-scoring games, control the ball, get the good shots. Yeah, it was a 45-second shot clock, that's true. They worked it to perfection. I said, my God, we're about to have the first 16 beating number 1 ever. It didn't happen. Down the stretch, Georgetown used their talent, got up, and in the closing seconds of the game, Georgetown led 50-49. Princeton had the ball. Princeton drove their top scorer into the corner, took a jump shot, and Alonzo Mourning sent it 3 rows up into the stands. All right, they had 1 second left. Threw it into the same guy from out of bounds, took a long jump shot, 3-pointer, ended up 3 rows in the stands. Alonzo Mourning went up and blocked it again. I mean, my goodness sake, that was the sheer talent. Other than that, they were beaten by a Princeton team that was good, but hardly in the same category they were athletically. You can do it with your head. Charlie Spoonhour did it down here. Pete Kirill did it at Princeton. He's in the Hall of Fame. Brilliant coach, 514 career victories in college. That's a tough one. That's a tough loss, but a great coach.
Well, thanks for sharing. Kind of a tough blow for the Dodgers now. At least it doesn't have anything to do with ringworm.
Of all things, what on earth is Fernando to... Does he think we're idiots?
Ringworm.
You've got to be kidding me.
I'm sorry. I kid.
Anyway, this is Walker Buehler, about whom we're talking. Walker Buehler is one of the Dodgers' better pitchers, but keep in mind, he hasn't pitched for 2 months. He's been out because of an elbow problem. He's going to have elbow surgery, so he's out until next year. Does that hurt the Dodgers? Well, probably not to the extent that you'd think, because he hasn't really been a part of this winning team. Heck, they're the winningest team in baseball, and they're right up there ready to challenge for a World Series. They've done it without him. They would do it with him, of course, but his loss for the rest of the year is probably not going to be quite as impacting as if it were to have happened right now.
Last but not least, what's the schedule tonight for the Missouri baseball team?
Well, they're all back in action. Last night was an idle night. Cardinals play the Colorado Rockies, first of a 3-game series at Busch Stadium. Hey, this should be a sweep for St. Louis. Yeah, I know it wasn't out in Denver, but playing out in Colorado is a different story.
Yes, sir.
I think St. Louis has 3 big wins coming up here. Kansas City Royals, who've been playing dynamite baseball, folks, they're really coming into their own. They're going to Target Field in Minneapolis, play the Minnesota Twins, and really do the Twins some harm in the American League Central Division. And the Springfield Cardinals are home. They're taking on the Arkansas Travelers out of North Little Rock, Arkansas. 6-game series beginning tonight. and lasting right through the week. Pretty good series coming up. Springfield has to win to maintain any kind of playoff hopes at all. Maybe they will. They're playing better as well.
And I got word yesterday that Flaherty is going to do a rehab start tonight. Is that right?
Probably throw about 45 or 50 pitches tonight, weather permitting. Yeah, Flaherty is down here. How close he is to returning to the Cardinals, probably not immediately. But at least we'll see how he can pitch against competition. This is the second time down here now in rehab. And I think it's indicative of where the Cardinals need, or what they need more than anything else down the stretch run. They want him back, but they don't want damaged goods back, of course. So we'll see how he makes out down here. Should be very interesting.
I hope they give him the time he needs, because I really believe, at least right now, like you mentioned with the Dodgers, they've won. The Cardinals, being who I'm talking about, have won without Flaherty, which has been great. But to get him back the end of August, early September, when we really get close, will be a huge get for the Cardinals. Don't rush it, guys, is what I'm saying. Don't rush it. We need him in the postseason.
Need him for the playoffs.
Yeah, big time. Ned, we need you for the playoffs, too, and I'll see you tomorrow.